world is gone.
Imagine spending 10 years fighting a war, only to discover that getting back home could cost you everything. Today, we're diving into one of the most legendary journeys ever told. A story of war, monsters, betrayal, temptation, sacrifice, and a man who would cross the edge of the known world just to see his family again. This is the Odyssey. But this isn't simply a story about a legendary warrior trying to find his way home. It's the story of a king who wins the greatest war of his life and then loses almost everything on the journey back. A man who faces creatures beyond imagination, survives impossible odds, watches his companions disappear one by one, and is forced to confront the darkest consequences of his own choices. And the deeper Odysseus travels, the more dangerous his journey becomes. Because every island hides a new threat, every victory comes with a price, and somewhere beyond the sea, a family is still waiting for a man they are beginning to believe will never return. So what happened to Odysseus? Why did his journey home take years? What did he encounter along the way? And when he finally returned to Ithaca, was he still the same man who left? Well, today we're breaking down the entire story of the Odyssey from beginning to end, including its biggest twists, its most important moments, and the ending that changes everything. So sit back, stay focused, and let's begin this legendary journey without wasting another second. The story begins immediately after the fall of Troy. For 10 long years, Odysseus has fought alongside the Greek army. And now, finally, the war is over. Troy has fallen. The enemy has been defeated, but Odysseus has no idea that his real battle is only beginning. What if the greatest warrior in the world finally won his war, only to discover that getting home would become the hardest battle of his life? After 10 years of fighting at Troy, Odysseus has finally achieved victory. His enemies are defeated, Troy has fallen, and all he wants now is to return to Ithaca, where his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus are waiting for him. But Odysseus is about to learn something terrifying. Winning a war is easy compared to living with what you did to win it. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey follows a legendary king whose journey home becomes a nightmare of storms, monsters, gods, temptation, death, and guilt. And while the story appears to be about a man trying to reach his home, the deeper story is about a man trying to become worthy of returning to it. So let's break down the entire movie. The story begins in the aftermath of the Trojan War. Odysseus has spent years fighting alongside the Greek forces. His greatest achievement comes through one of the most famous strategies in history, the Trojan horse. Instead of defeating Troy through another direct assault, Odysseus uses deception. The Greeks appear to abandon the war and leave behind a massive wooden horse. The Trojans believe the war is finally over. They bring the horse inside their city, but hidden within it are Greek soldiers. Once night falls, the soldiers emerge, open the gate, and allow the Greek army to enter. Troy falls. The Greeks have won. But Odysseus has also crossed a line that will follow him for the rest of his life. He has turned victory into destruction, and now he begins the journey home. Odysseus and his men board their ship and sail toward Ithaca. First, home seems close, but the sea has other plans. Their journey becomes a series of increasingly dangerous encounters, and the further Odysseus travels, the more it becomes clear that this isn't simply a physical journey. Every island forces him to confront another part of himself. Every obstacle takes something from him, and every victory seems to move him further away from the place he desperately wants to reach. Meanwhile, years are passing in Ithaca. Penelope is still waiting. Their son, Telemachus, is growing up without his father, and because Odysseus has been gone for so long, powerful men begin gathering around Penelope. They want her to accept that Odysseus is never coming back. If she chooses another husband, that man can potentially take control of Ithaca. But Penelope refuses to give up. She continues to hold on to the possibility that her husband is alive. For Telemachus, however, the situation is much more complicated. He has grown up hearing stories about his father, the great king, the brilliant strategist, the legendary warrior. But a legend is not the same thing as a father. Telemachus wants answers, and while he waits for Odysseus to return, Odysseus is fighting his own battle far away from home. One of the most important encounters comes when Odysseus reaches the world of Circe. Circe is not simply another obstacle. She represents temptation. She offers Odysseus an opportunity to escape the consequences of his journey. But Odysseus continues forward. His destination remains Ithaca. Eventually, his journey leads him to the underworld, and this is where the story becomes much darker. Odysseus encounters the dead, and is forced to confront the consequences of everything that has happened. The people he lost, the men who followed him, the destruction caused by the war, and the price of his own decision. Here, Odysseus receives a prophecy that becomes crucial to the rest of his journey. The dead are not simply forgotten. Odysseus owes them something. He has survived when many others did not, and survival creates a responsibility. This idea follows him for the rest of the film. Odysseus eventually understands that returning home is not enough. He cannot simply arrive in Ithaca, take his crown, and pretend that everything is normal. Too much has happened. Too many people have died, and he has changed. The journey continues. One of the most famous dangers comes from the Cyclops. Odysseus and his men encounter a giant creature who traps them. Instead of defeating the creature through strength alone, Odysseus relies on the quality that has always made him different from other warriors: his intelligence. He creates a plan to escape, but surviving the encounter comes with consequences. Odysseus repeatedly discovers that cleverness can save him from immediate danger while simultaneously creating a bigger problem later. That becomes one of the central patterns of his journey. He survives, but survival has a price. The Odyssey, 2026, Part 2. At another point, the crew encounters the Sirens. They represent another kind of danger. Not physical strength, not armies, but desire. The Sirens tempt sailors with something they desperately want. For Odysseus, the greatest temptation is not treasure or power. It is the promise of finally escaping his suffering. The journey has exhausted him. He wants peace. He wants home. But the sea continues to pull him forward. As the years pass, Odysseus loses more and more of the men who began the journey with him. His crew becomes smaller. His isolation becomes greater. And eventually, Odysseus is almost completely alone. This is important because the man who left Troy as a victorious king is slowly being stripped of everything that once defined him. His army is gone. His companions are gone. His certainty is gone. All he has left is the promise of Ithaca. And then, after years of wandering, he finally gets close to home. But Ithaca is no longer the place he remembers. Odysseus has been gone for so long that many people believe he is dead. Penelope has been surrounded by suitors who want to marry her. They consume the resources of Odysseus's household and behave as though his kingdom already belongs to them. Telemachus is now old enough to understand exactly what has happened. His father has become almost a ghost, a name from the past. And when Odysseus finally reaches Ithaca, he doesn't immediately reveal himself. Instead, he enters his own kingdom disguised as a beggar. This is one of the most important decisions in the entire story. Odysseus wants to know who has remained loyal. He wants to understand what happened while he was gone. And most importantly, he needs to determine whether Ithaca can still be saved. The suitors have taken over his home. They believe Odysseus is dead. They have no idea that the man standing among them is the king they have been waiting to replace. Odysseus watches. He waits. He studies everyone around him. And then Penelope announces a challenge. The suitors will compete for her hand, but the challenge is not ordinary. They must use Odysseus's legendary bow. The weapon is a symbol of the king himself. The man who can successfully use it will prove himself worthy. One by one, the suitors attempt the challenge, and one by one, they fail. Then the disguised Odysseus steps forward. The men laugh. They believe a helpless old beggar has no chance. But Odysseus takes the bow, and immediately, everything changes. He handles it with the ease of the man who once ruled Ithaca. He completes the challenge, and now the disguise is over. Odysseus has returned. The king is standing inside his own palace, but his return is not peaceful. The suitors realize what has happened. The situation erupts into a violent confrontation. Odysseus fights to reclaim his home. Telemachus joins him. For the first time, father and son are fighting on the same side, and that moment is bigger than simply defeating the suitors. Telemachus has spent his entire life wondering what kind of man his father really was. Now he finally sees him, but he also sees the darker side of the legend. Odysseus is not the perfect hero he imagined. He is a man carrying years of guilt, a man who has made terrible choices, a man who survived when others didn't. And when the battle ends, Odysseus has won his home back, but he has not escaped his past. Penelope now faces the moment she has imagined for years. Her husband is finally standing before her, but after everything that happened, she cannot simply accept him because he claims to be Odysseus. She needs proof. The film changes this moment from Homer's original story. Instead of relying on the famous secret of their marriage bed, Nolan's version uses another personal object connected to their relationship. Odysseus reveals something only the real Odysseus could know, and Penelope finally understands. The man standing in front of her is really her husband. After years of waiting, they are finally reunited. But Nolan does not allow the story to end with a simple happy reunion, because Odysseus knows what he has done. The deaths of the suitors cannot simply be erased. The people he killed were occupying occupying his home, but they were still guests under the rules of the world he lives in. Odysseus has restored order through violence, and now he must live with the consequences. This is where the meaning of the journey becomes clear. Odysseus spent years trying to get home, but when he finally gets there, he realizes that homecoming does not automatically erase guilt. The greatest enemy was never simply the Cyclops. It was never the sea. It was never the monsters. It was Odysseus himself. The man who left Ithaca believed that victory would solve everything. The man who returns understands that victory cannot bring back the dead. And there is still one final decision. Who will rule Ithaca? Instead of simply taking back the throne, Odysseus chooses another path. Telemachus is crowned king. The son who spent his childhood waiting for his father finally becomes the ruler of Ithaca, and Odysseus gives up the throne. This decision is the emotional payoff of the entire story. At the beginning, Odysseus believes that being king means possessing the kingdom. By the end, he understands that being a king also means accepting responsibility for what your actions have caused. But Odysseus still has one promise to keep. Remember the prophecy from the underworld. He promised that if he returned home, he would travel west and honor the dead. Now he intends to fulfill that promise, and Penelope chooses to go with him. Instead of remaining in Ithaca and watching her husband continue to carry the weight of everything that happened, she joins him. Together, they leave. Telemachus remains behind as king, and Odysseus and Penelope sail west. This is why the ending is so different from the traditional version of Homer's story. Homer's epic continues beyond the defeat of the suitors. Nolan chooses to end his film by focusing on responsibility, sacrifice, and the idea that sometimes returning home does not mean staying there. Odysseus spent years trying to reach Ithaca, but once he finally arrived, he realizes that his journey is not really over. He has another responsibility. He must honor the people who died because of the war. And for the first time, he is not running toward glory. He is not chasing victory. He is not trying to become a legend. He is simply trying to make peace with the past. The final image of Odysseus and Penelope sailing away is therefore much more meaningful than it first appeared. They are not escaping Ithaca because they don't love it. They are leaving because Odysseus understands that the crown belongs to the next generation. Telemachus represents the future. Odysseus represents the past. And by giving his son the throne, he finally stops trying to control what comes next. The man who spent the entire movie trying to return home finally accepts that home is not necessarily a place. It is the people you love. It is the memories you carry. And sometimes, it is the peace you find after accepting what cannot be changed. That is what makes the Odyssey more than a story about a warrior traveling across the ancient world. It is a story about what happens after the war is over. Because anyone can fight for victory. The real challenge is learning how to live with it. Odysseus survives monsters, storms, temptation, death, and years of separation. But his final victory is not defeating another enemy. It is choosing responsibility over power. He gives the crown to his son. He chooses Penelope, and he sails toward an uncertain future with the people he still has left. After spending years searching for home, Odysseus finally understands the truth. Sometimes the longest journey isn't the one that takes you home. It's the one that teaches you what home really means. And that is the real ending of the Odyssey. If you enjoyed this full movie explanation, make sure to subscribe to the Mystery Reel for more movie stories, endings explained, hidden details, and cinematic breakdown. And if you want to see more epic movies explained like this, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.